Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 3 of the Unsung Heroes for the 2026 Super Motocross World Championship season. We are wrapping up Anaheim 2 this week, giving a spotlight to all of the 450 and 250 West Privateers, as well as the SMX Next Privateers, who are in action for the first time this season on Saturday night. I am Trey Steyer. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in. You can always find the Unsung Heroes audio edition alongside the Steyer sound on all of its platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, iHeartRadio. You know where to find us. Be sure to spread the word, tell a friend, share our show. Thank you once again for tuning in. You can also find the written version if you like to read and get information that way. We encourage you to do both. The written version will be up on treysteyer.wordpress.com. You can go find the recent work tab, and all of my articles will be there. I am Trey Steyer, your host, and let's go ahead and hop into things, starting with the 250 class from Anaheim 2. And once again, it was the Club MX Yamaha team, the best non factory group, Maximus Voland, getting his first top 5 of the season. Great ride for Max. Apparently, he was a little bit under the weather this weekend, but still P5. He was fighting for a podium early on in the main event, and it was a nice top 5 finish. I keep saying every week he's bound for a podium this year, and I think that is going to continue. And his chances at a podium just went up due to the unfortunate news we received today. I'm recording this on Monday evening about Chance Hymas's injury. Best wishes to Chance. But Maximus Voland trending in the right direction, as is his teammate Hunter Yoder. Not a run that jumps off the page, but nonetheless a career best for Yoder. He tied his previous career best at Anaheim 1, now 7th place, the career best for the Californian. Hunter Yoder, another guy I could see potentially breaking into the top 5 toward the end of the year. It was a solid night. He wasn't really getting those starts and getting out front in the heat races like he had the past couple races, but nonetheless, running inside the top 10 all night, a 7th place finish, plenty to be proud of for Yoder. You look on down the list a little bit. In 8th place, perhaps the most impressive ride by any privateer in any class this weekend. Shout out to Carson Mumford from the AEO Power Sports KTM team. Carson was down in that first turn, start straight pile up that also involved his teammate Avery Long and Dylan Schwartz. The same crash that injured Chance Hymas. Carson's been under the weather the first couple races, but he picked his bike up at the rear of the field, kept pushing forward, grabbed an 8th place finish. A great step forward for Carson and a great run after the first couple races showing some promise, but between the sickness and hitting the ground in the whoops at San Diego, wasn't really much to show for it. But a P8, a nice top 10 finish, his first top 10 aboard a steel frame machine. Progress for sure, and a great performance by Carson, ripping his way through the pack. Speaking of career bests, tying his career best, in Supercross at least, was Parker Ross on the Toyota Redlands Bar X Yamaha. It was a quiet weekend, but he was another guy that was spending the main event inside the top 10, and he said on social media it felt like a much better day overall than the other races, not just with the result, but first top 10 of the year for the sophomore. Great run by Parker Ross. And then rounding out the top 10 for his first top 10 finish since January 2024 and the second in the history of his organization, Josh Varese, putting the Grindstone Friesen Group Kawasaki, the 224, finished P10. A nice run for Josh, a great rebound after an early crash sent him a lap down pretty early in the San Diego main event. A top 10 solid ride for Josh. He's always pretty quiet but pretty solid usually, and it was the first top 10 for the Grindstone team since Dylan Walsh Anaheim 2 3 years ago in 2023. So Anaheim 2, a very successful round for the Grindstone Friesen Group Kawasaki team. Their success has been pretty common at Anaheim too. Not just that, Max Sanford getting an LCQ win at the event a couple years ago. They just keep on trying to improve. Just outside of the top 10, I mentioned him in that first lap incident. Dylan Schwartz, P11, not able to match his top 10 status from the first two races, but he was another guy who had to work his way through the field. And Dylan, right now, eighth in points, on track to absolutely shatter his previous best. If he stays healthy, there's no doubt in my mind that he will top his previous best Supercross points finish, which is 16th back in 2023, the one season he was out of the Bar X team and was competing for the Progressive Insurance X Star Suzuki team. Schwartz, I'm sure, will be back closer to the top 10 in Houston if he puts together a solid night. 12th position, another career best run. The Dane, Matty Jorgensen, was back in the main event. Tough weekend in San Diego for SLR Honda, but the team rebounded for a 12th and a 14th. Jorgensen, his previous career best was 13th, so like Hunter Yoder, one spot to the good. An awesome run for Jorgensen. It was a strange day at first. Qualified 30th, which we're not used to seeing him that low in time qualifying. But the LCQ, he came alive again like in Anaheim 1, and on the final corner ran Preston Massiangelo wide. Some former AJE riders mixing it up, of course, both graduates of the AJE Motorsports team. Jorgensen spent 2024, his rookie season, with them. Massiangelo last year in his rookie year, and it was Jorgensen running him wide, taking the final spot, and then a 12th place result. Great run for Matty, and his teammate Justin Rodbell was also back in the main event. 14th, a much better finish than his 19th at Anaheim 1, and then his D&Q last weekend. Great to see the SLR team stepping up, and it comes at the right time. As I mentioned with Chance Hymas's injury, SLR is the only Honda-backed 250 organization in the West. Quadlock Honda does not have a West Coast 250 rider. Phoenix Racing is East only this year in Supercross. Storm Lake Honda usually an East only team. So great for the SLR team to start building momentum as Honda needs them to step up now in the absence of their factory rider. 13th place, another rider scoring his career best finish, and that leads us into our interview of the week. Someone who has appeared multiple times on the Unsung Heroes, got his career best at Anaheim 2 after winning the LCQ, first Suzuki 250 rider to score a top 15 for the brand since April 2024. Of course, the Bar X team switched over to Yamaha, left a vacancy in the Suzuki presence, but this man is stepping up from the McGinley Clinic Privateer Support Program, the number 131 from Navasota, Texas. Please welcome back to the Unsung Heroes, Crockett Myers. What's up, dude? Congrats on the career best. Last time we talked for this series, you were coming off a career best. Now 3 spots higher. How we feeling, man?
Dude, thanks for having me, man. I mean, to be honest, I was just extremely stoked to be able to even be in the main event and then to score a career best. It was a surreal moment, dude, and I couldn't be more stoked.
Let's get into it. Talking about Anaheim, too. Very hectic day for you. Just a little bit shy in your heat race, but we had an absolutely wild LCQ out there. I don't know if you've had time to go back and watch the races, but there were guys flying up through the pack, guys making mistakes, casing on the first lap. It was an insane race, last corner passes, and then the main event, solid, methodical ride, working your way up to 13th. Take us through your day at Anaheim, too, and how everything transpired.
Dude, yeah. To be honest, my goal was and still is to make it a direct transfer to the heat race. It would make my life, a million times easier and a little less stressful, obviously, but dude, the past 3 weeks for me have just been absolute chaos. At A1, I obviously lost one of my best friends, and that was a brutal day. And then we went to San Diego, and we lost the valve, and then we get to A1 or A2, and it's just been hectic trying to get the bike back running week after week and all these things. But it seems to be on Saturday, all the bullshit set aside, we lock in and get it done. So I'm just extremely grateful for everything that I really have going on. The McGinley Clinic stepping up and, giving me an opportunity, my dad and, all the friends and family behind me that's helping me live my dream. It's amazing. And for me to really step up this year and up my program and, you know, it's really special to me to be back home on a Suzuki and, being one of the only guys now in the 250 class on a Suzuki is pretty dang cool. It's a pretty special feeling being the only guy on the brand and representing it. So it feels good. And I'm honestly just proud of myself and proud of my crew that I got around me that were, making it happen this year. Cause we did struggle a little bit last year with DVD and those guys, but they're still amazing friends of mine and grateful for them as well. But it's just been a spectacular season so far for me, and I'm excited to keep the ball rolling.
Take us through that LCQ. Obviously, you mentioned working your way through a heat race is the ideal goal, but you got out front there in the LCQ. Of course, Massiangelo also ripped a great start, but there was so much going on, but you were really in first or second the entire race, just controlled the whole thing, got your second career LCQ win, plus you got some time to do your TV interview. So walk us through the LCQ a little bit, how you were able to just stay up there, comfortable, composed, because you had a great LCQ ride at A1 as well. And then the main event, just talking about working your way through guys. And did you know that you were up in as high of a position as you were in the main event?
So yeah, we'll start with the LCQ. I obviously had a pretty decent gate pick going into the LCQ. I think I got 12th in my heat, and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't really remember. I just know I didn't qualify in directly to the main. So obviously I had to go to the LCQ, and I think I was third or fourth gate pick for the LCQ. And actually, some of the guys, it surprises me when they pick their gates. They always leave me a really good gate on the inside. And so I snagged me a really good gate, and I knew if I executed a really good start that my odds were pretty high. However, I haven't been able to do very many starts on a Suzuki. So I've been, my first real start on the race bike was at Anaheim 1. And if you saw my starts at Anaheim 1, it would kind of make sense. I was, slipping the clutch, and then one of them I did a backflip off the gate, and then one of them my whole shot device broke. So I've really been struggling, but I did execute a perfect start in the LCQ, kind of crept around the inside and ended up getting the first rhythm, which I knew was going to be huge. If I got the whole shot, I knew I had to go 2-3-3, and that would kind of, dictate how the first lap went for me. Well, Massiangelo got a really good start too, and he happened to be on the inside. So he kind of ran me high, which he really had no choice because there was, 6 ruts in that corner. So when we got there, he kind of pushed me high and wide, and I wasn't really going to fight him because I'm like, dude, we're 1 and 2. Let's just ride this puppy in and get this first lap out of the way. So I kind of gave him the lead, and I knew if I stayed close to him, I could match his pace and kind of see what he was doing and maybe make a pass later on. Well, I think it was around lap 2, maybe 2 or 3. I can't remember exactly, but he ended up missing the triple out of the rhythm before the whoops, and I think I jumped to the inside of him, made the pass stick, and then my goal was to just get away from him and let those guys behind us duke it out. And I think I kind of said that in the interview there. I was like, to be honest, I just heard the crowd the entire time, and I was struggling all night with bikes set up in the whoops, but I knew on the other parts of the track that I could make up time. And I knew if I just stayed consistently with my triple triple line to the whoops or double double, whatever I could get through them, I knew I was fine. Well, and it was a short race, obviously. It's 5 minutes plus a lap, so there's 4 or 5 laps. But I think it was who was it that jumped off the track? I know who it is, but I can't think of his name exactly. Help me
Trying
out
to
here.
challenge you for the lead?
Yeah, at the last
30.
lap, Dominic 30, that's what it was. So I knew he was catching me because I knew he was one of the guys on a Yamaha, and obviously the Yamaha has a distinct sound, so I knew who it was. And I'm like, well, if he gets to me on this last lap, he's either going to make a pass pretty quick or he's going to get me in the whoops. So I kind of wasn't going to fight him either because, 1 and 2, maybe it's a gate pick for the main event, but one spot, it doesn't really matter. Let's not do anything stupid. Well, when he made that pass on me coming out of the sand, I imagined that he was going inside roll double and then doubling across the start straight. So I went outside and I was like, if I can stay lower than him over these 2 doubles and maybe he cross ruts and misses this jump, and I'll get him in the next corner. So I set that up, and we ended up side by side, so I couldn't see exactly what he did, but I heard the crowd roar, and I'm like, uh-oh, like something happened. And when I watched the race back, I saw that he had jumped right, landed on a hay bale, and went around the berm. So that kind of gave me a little bit of breathing room that last lap, which I was obviously grateful for. But unfortunate for him, luckily he still did make the main, so that's pretty cool. And then shout out to my boy Matty Jorgensen, made it in too on the last turn. It's obviously unfortunate for Angelo, but it's dude, it was a pretty sick LCQ to be in, and all the dudes that were in it were there's quite a few gnarly dudes in there, so it was cool for me to get out there and win one straight up. No mud race, no hole shot, and guys crashing in the first turn, and me just running away with it. That was as legit as it gets for me. So it was a pretty big confidence boost. Like Dominic Thury's no joke. Preston Masiangelo's no joke. Like, I mean, all those guys in that class they're all pretty dang rowdy and talented racers. So it was a pretty big confidence boost for me as a whole.
I mean, you talk about all the guys in there. I mean, Bourdon just got top 10 at San Diego, and he's D and Qing at Anaheim too. You talk about the level of the depth, but 13th in the main event, and I looked at your start stats, or at least the one page where it's like most positions gained. It said you were 17th at the hole shot line, I think it is, where they take the stats, then climbing up to 13th. How are you able to make your way through the pack? You mentioned you had the jump lines dialed. The Wolves was a struggle point, but where were you able to really make up time and start to set up passes in the main events?
So for me, dude, if you go back to the main event, well, actually, let's backtrack. So after the LCQ, obviously I won the LCQ, so then I went straight to the podium, and I did the stadium interview, I guess we can call it that, and then I did the broadcast, like live television interview. So that took about 20 minutes, maybe 10, 15. It felt like it took an eternity. Anyway, so after the interviews, I went back to the semi because I needed to grab new goggles and I needed fuel in my bike because I don't remember if I filled up or not. I just wanted to go back to the rig, kind of double check the bike as fast as I could, and then get back to the gate for the main event. So when I lined up or got back to staging to go to the gate, all the guys had already started funneling into the gate. And for those of you who don't really know, if you're not, on the wall and staging, you just miss your gate pick. So I was dead last gate pick. I was a far outside gate for Supercross. When you line up on the outside or all the way inside, the start kind of funnels in to the middle of the gate. That's why, you see the guys with first gate pick go beside the doghouse. It's pretty much a straight shot. However, I'm on the far outside gate and I'm looking directly at the sand section. And if you watch A2, the sand section is way to the right side of the first turn. And obviously, you're on a Supercross main event gate. There's no bad racer or bad starter on that gate. Everybody on that gate is as legit as it comes. So I'm like, dude, if I don't execute a good start here, I'm pretty much screwed. So I just, did the best that I could do off the gate. And I'm like, dude, I'm not letting off until, you know, what's that one guy said? I see a checkered flag or Jesus. And I'm like, man, I'm going for it. So I held it on as long as I could. And I actually came out really good. If you go back and watch that start, I think I would have came out somewhere around the top 10, I believe. However, one of my homies decided to do a 360 in the first rhythm section. So that kind of threw a spoke in the wrench. And, I guess I got funneled back to around 17th there. But luckily, when I did the sight lap, I knew how gnarly the track was. And I got back to the gate and I told my mechanic after the sight lap, I'm like, dude, I need to just ride this thing in. I'm like, if I can keep her on two wheels and we leave here in one piece, I call it a win. So when I got onto the track after the start, I'm like, dude, let's just ride this thing in. And, wherever I finish, I finish. And obviously I was going to do the best I could. But so I just wanted to go out there and race as smart as I could and as fast as I could, as safe as I could. And luckily for me, a lot of people, were making mistakes and going off the track and going down and having issues. And, a handful of guys I picked off and passed. And, I was pretty much tunnel vision. And I remember about halfway through the main event, I remembered, hey, I got a mechanic. Let's look at the pit board. So I look over and I see the pit board and I see, I think he said like 16 or something. And I'm like, all right, hey, that's matching my career best. Let's get one more. So I got one more. I passed one more guy and I'm like, all right, come back around. It says 14. I'm like, all right, I like that. And maybe it was, I saw 18th on the pit board and then I saw 17th and then I saw 16th. Like I was working my way up and I'm like, And I just got fired up lap after lap after lap. It was like I wanted more. I wanted more. And I just kept digging, dude. And that's really what I did. I just put my head down and just, took the race as it came to me. And it all just ended up working out really well. And I stayed pretty consistent. And I kind of had some mental goals of mine that I didn't write them down or tell them to anybody, but I'm like, I wanted to execute an amazing start. And I did that. And I'm like, I wanted to just hit my laps. I wanted to make all the rhythms. I wanted to hit the whoops as good as I can. And, just pretty much just be relevant and show what I'm capable of in the main. And that's all I did. And it ended up being my career best, at a 13th. And when I pulled off the track, dude, it was just like, a sign of relief. I'm like, finally, like that breakthrough kind of, and obviously it's a 13th. It's not, you know, anything super spectacular, but for me, who's really never done anything in the pro ranks yet, it was like, the world kind of lifted off my shoulders, and it felt really cool to come back to the truck and, all the friends and just people that congratulated me and all that. It was a great feeling, and just super stoked on the night, man. I couldn't be more grateful and stoked for the team and in my program.
You talked a little bit about feeling back home on the Suzuki. The last couple years since you started to enter the pro ranks, you've been kind of here, there, and everywhere on these bikes. Started your pro career, you were on a KTM privateer effort, of course, last year with the Dirt Bike Depot guys. Then you had some time on a Kawasaki on Arena Cross. Then you went to the EBR Husqvarna team, won a main event in Arena Cross in Daytona, ran a Yamaha for a little bit again after you spent some time on a Yamaha amateur career. Now you're back on the Suzuki. Talk a little bit about why you decided to go back to the RM Army. And then after you talk a little bit about that, I know Anaheim won. My buddy and Jeremy and I were talking to you, and your bike has a previous owner that I think a lot of people would know and recognize. So talk a little bit about the story of how you got your bike and all of that as well.
All right, so I'll make this as short as possible. So somehow along, the outdoors and riding for DBD, we kind of had a rough couple years being pro. I gave it a run. Me and my dad did the best we could. DVD took a chance on me, and obviously we did the best we could. And we struggled through the outdoor season. And I think it was Unadilla. I struggled really, really bad, and I didn't even qualify for the motos. And I remember at Unadilla, I had a phone call with my dad, and we just kind of were like, dude, look, we gave it our best run. It's not really working out. It's expensive as crap. We're not really making our money back on it. And, obviously we're not in this to make our money back. We're in it because we love it. But at the end of the day, you got to be realistic. Like, we're not qualifying for pro motos. It might be time to look elsewhere for a job. And I remember, sitting in the RV at Unadilla, and I'm just like, man, I can't imagine Crockett Myers quitting and going out like this. So I got off the phone with my dad, and we're pretty much quitting racing dirt bikes. I'm like, all right, this is the end of the line for Crockett Myers. We're done. And told my dad, I'm like, I'm all right with it. I'm at peace. I'm over this shit too. Like, it's not working. But I remember that next day, I hopped on a flight and I went home, and I got back home to Sandbox, and I called my suspension guy, Mike Ash, and I said, hey, I'm pretty much done racing dirt bikes no matter what. I was already signed up for Budds Creek. I'm like, I don't know if we're going, but I'm like, meet me at Sandbox. This was Sunday. I said, meet me at Sandbox Monday morning. Bring all your tools, bring your trailer, bring whatever you can. We're going to get this bike as good as we can get this bike. We're going to try every gearing and every setting. And we ended up going into Budds Creek, and, we saw some major improvements. I went 28, 23 that weekend. And then after that, I was like, all right, I can end my career on a 28, 23 overall finishes. I'm at peace with that. Let's walk away. So I did. I got back home to Sandbox, kind of did my own thing, was done racing dirt bikes, and Stacy and Jason Baker kind of gave me a cool opportunity to help them and train kids at their facility and help them with track work, and that kind of be my new gig. I was done racing dirt bikes. I still wanted to be in the industry and, be relevant and still do what I loved, and they gave me that chance. And as I'm working for them and training kids for the next 2 or 3 months and, doing my thing, I ended up having a phone call with my dad. And actually, I think what it was is I went to Hawaii with Levi Kitchen. We went on our, yearly vacation to Hawaii, and I'm like, I'm just like daydreaming about everything. I'm like, what if, I went back to Suzuki? And what if I ended up wanting to do that? And, what would that look like? So I called my dad and I'm like, hey, I know we're kind of done racing dirt bikes and I'm over this. We're figuring something out. But I'm like, what if, we went and just bought a Suzuki 250 and we started doing that and we try to do one more year on a Suzuki? And he's like, you know what? Screw it. I love Suzuki's. That's my home base. I loved when I was on factory Suzuki's and how they were, how they looked, how they, performed and everything about them. I just loved them. And I'm like, if I did one more year of Supercross, we can swing it. Let's buy a bike, get it as good as we can, and just go have fun with it. So that's kind of how the Suzuki came about. And, obviously I have a history with them. And obviously, Roxon and Anderson and Nichols riding for Factory Suzuki out of Moto Sandbox. Maybe if, I break a clutch lever or whatever and I need some parts, they'll have it and I'll just buy it from them. Or if it's like an old one and they don't need it no more, they're going to throw it away, let me borrow it. So, kind of like whatever falls off Kenny's bike or Jason's bike. And I'm not saying that happens for the viewers out there. I'm just saying if it was to be needed, they might could give me a hand. And, Dave Dye and Twisted, they kind of, helped me out as much as they could and have done some amazing things for me. However, once I got my practice bike that we bought to start training on, I'm asking, Dave Dye and all these guys, I'm like, how would we build a race bike? Like, how hard is that to do to get power out of them and make them, to perform with the modern day bikes? Because the Suzukis haven't changed since 2014. Obviously, they're not the fastest bike on the market, so on and so on. And Dave Dye's like, well, hey, we got, this old Bar X bike that Ken Roxon raced at Ironman in 2024. And I'm like, heck yeah, that sounds like a good deal. I bet that's a pretty good bike. I watched him almost pull a hole shot at Ironman, or maybe he did. I'm like, if that's the case, how much do they want for it? So we negotiated a deal with that thing and, got the bike and I rode it the first day and I was like, oh yeah, boy, it's on. Like it's got everything I need. And then the next thing, I was like, all right, we got to figure out who's going to do my suspension. So I called Mike Ash again and I'm like, hey, I'm riding an RM. I know that RG3 did the Bar X Suzuki team when they did, Supercross and outdoors. And I'm like, you probably know a thing or two about these. Let's get something going. And he said, heck yeah, dude. I'll get you a set of suspension. We'll start testing and see what we can come up with. And as I kind of went through testing this year with Mike, I kind of realized last year, I was with Dirt Bike Depot and running WMR stuff, and I'm like, I just didn't do enough testing, is what I've learned this year. So I kind of learned how to do the testing thing with Mike and all this stuff. So this year I just put my head down. Dude, we went through probably 10 or 12 shock settings, and probably 8 or 9 fork settings, and just got this bike as dialed as we can. And this was all within, 3 or 4 weeks. We did everything we could, and I did everything I could to be in shape and have my fitness dialed and the bike dialed and, everything. And I remember the last day that I was riding, Mike Ash was bringing me a new setting, and then we were both pretty much praying, like, we hope this is it. This is the last day we get to try this bike and this suspension to get it ready for A1. And when he brought that shock out and that set of forks and I put them on my bike within 2 laps, I was like, dude, we did it. Right on time, right on the money. We got a good enough setting to go racing at A1. And to be honest, how all this fell into place last minute is, I don't know what else to say than it's a gift from God, dude. We got everything dialed right on time. Everything fell into place and has been perfect. And then obviously I haven't ever done anything in the pro ranks to, shock anybody. To go to A1 and make the main event weekend one was like, a game changer for me. I got that momentum that I needed. I got that confidence. I don't know if any of this makes sense or not, but dude, it's just been surreal. This whole past couple months of training and racing dirt bikes again has just changed the game for me, man. It's been surreal.
Talk a little bit. I know you've mentioned several times, of course, buddies with Levi Kitchen. You're training over there at Sandbox with Kenny, with some of those other guys. I mean, for you, and I know I've talked to some other people, Aiden Shive in the past, talking to him about working at the dog pound with the Lawrences and Chance Hymas, some of the guys over there. What is the dynamic like for you guys over at Sandbox? Like you mentioned, I mean, so many wins over there. When you look at Levi, of course, Kenny, I mean, he's won championships all over the world, whether it was MX2, whether it was here in America, World Supercross. Explain how much you've been able to pick up being able to work with some of those guys and ride, see what their program is like, and then just chop it up with them because I know that it seems at least like a pretty fun dynamic over there from the glimpses I see every now and then.
That whole crew, as far as, Dave Dye, Rob Burkhart, Levi Kitchen, Jason Baker, Stacy Baker, Jace Baker, their son, we call him Biggie, Ben Riddle, Wyatt, the track guy, Jason Anderson, Colt Nichols, Shane McElrath, Joey Savacci, Ken Roxon, and if I'm leaving a handful of others out, I apologize. But dude, all of those guys is like it's like a football team almost. Like, yes, we're all kind of doing our own thing and we're all separate humans, but we all build each other up on a day-to-day basis. Whether it's Rob Burkhart sitting us down and giving us his daily speech, or Ben Riddle out there grinding at midnight, watering the tracks and getting the tracks ready, or it's Jason out there and Sean Rife getting the track right. And it's just, dude, it's the sickest thing to be a part of, and to have that many young adults, and shoot, even I'm not going to call Rob Burkhardt and Dave Dye young because they're not, but they're just the sickest dudes to be around. And for all of them to come together and, work as one. And, it's not, Levi's not there like, oh, I'm not going to tell you my secrets, dude. Like, I don't want you to be better than me or whatever. It's the complete opposite. Kenny's out there, when his bike's in the shop and they're changing settings, he's out there watching Levi and he's helping Levi. And if I'm struggling, they both come together and they sit down and they help me. And it's the sickest thing ever, dude. It's the raddest group of dudes I've ever been around in my life, and I will forever be grateful for all of those guys there to, have what we have, and to have some of the greatest tracks in the world to train on. And I remember like a couple weeks ago testing a bike at Paula, or just going to ride at Paula during the week in between A1 and San Diego. Obviously, Paula is an amazing track, but at Sandbox, we don't have 35 guys riding on it at once. So I got done with my first session and I immediately picked up my phone and I text Stacy Baker and I was like, thank you. Like, thank you, thank you, thank you for what you guys provide us at Moto Sandbox. And, some days we're like, oh, the track's this or the track's that or whatever. But to go see what those guys in California ride at Paula, and, just all the other tracks, and they're great tracks. Like, don't get me wrong, they're amazing tracks, but they're just gnarly. And I was like, man, we got it easy back home, like it wouldn't hurt me to come out here more often and hop in with these cats and start training. But anyways, I'm so grateful for everything, that's come together, and all the guys that have helped me, and, Levi and Kenny and Jason, Mohead, for all the things they've done for me this off season to get to where I am today. I'm borderline speechless. I could talk in circles about it all day. And, even my buddies, like Cole Bradford and Aiden Shive, AJ Meadows, my graphics guy, all my buddies that, keep in contact with me. We're all just a big crew of dudes who just want better for each other and better for ourselves. And it's just the coolest thing to be a part of, man. It's so awesome.
You talking about Paula and how rough it gets. I watched a Matty B video a couple weeks ago, and I'm just watching 20 or 30 guys just hammer it out. The whoops were destroyed. It was a brand new track, and it was just already ruined, it seemed like. And I'm like, man, these guys go and do this like every day. It did not look very fun. You're a Texas boy. You're from the Lone Star State. Race in Texas this weekend, Houston. Not really familiar with Texas geography, so I'm not sure how close this race is to your hometown, but how are we feeling now that we get a home race, home state race, I should say, and you get to be in front of some friends and some family and get some of that Lone Star cooking?
All I can say, dude, is the pressure's on. Like, it's gonna be gnarly. But no, dude, I'm so stoked, and it's gonna be so cool to see all my friends that, I kind of grew up with. And as hard as it is for me to say this, I want everybody to know how I am from Texas, but I really don't have that much time in the state growing up, and in Texas, I feel like it's one of those places that you have to be from here to love it, because it's not the most pretty state. But for those of us that are from here, I just feel like we love it just for the, the smells, the little stumpy trees we got, the brown grass we have there. Like, it's just, I love it. So to be back home, be around my family, have my mom's cooking before the week or the weekend, and even dude, just seeing my dog and all this stuff, dude, it's so awesome. Like the feeling I get being back home is, just it's like being a kid again, and not that I'm super old now, but it is cool to be back home and to be racing in my hometown. My grandparents are going to be there, my super close friends, my uncle and my aunt are going to be there. It's going to be the sickest time of my life, regardless how the weekend goes. I'm surrounded by all those my supporters and people that love me, and dude, it's gonna be epic. I absolutely can't wait. I'm just blown away and thankful for all the opportunities that have fallen in line for me to make all this happen. It's so cool.
You mentioned it a couple times, talking about how some people were very important to you, and I know you mentioned Anaheim 1 being tough, and it was for a lot of people because we lost someone that was an absolute light, one of the absolute best people I've ever got a chance to meet. Jamie Bradford, just what a human being, what a special person. I only had the chance to meet her one time, but the energy and the positivity that radiated from her, considering everything she went through, what a wonderful person. And I know racing for her memory, that's probably what you're going for a lot right now, but just talk about the kind of person Jamie was. And I know a lot of people who have followed me have seen from her story last year that I wrote about after the Tampa Supercross when she was supporting Cole and there at all of his races to the tribute that I wrote for her. I mean, just shed some light for some people and give us a glimpse once again of how awesome of a person Jamie was.
Oh, this is a tough one for me, obviously, but I mean, Jamie Bradford, bro, the smile that she always had on her face, bro, was just it's crazy that we have to, go through life now without her. However, she's pain free now and she's looking down on us and keeping us all safe. And it's tough for me. And it's really, really tough for my brother Lincoln. Her and him were best friends and at the hip since they met. And to see him go through what he went through with it, to see Cole Bradford, her brother, and to deal with all that, it's just been an absolute nightmare. But she was just the most beautiful person to be around. Everybody that knew her, she just made them feel like no matter what they had done or who they were, that they were just always loved. She just made you feel like that you were best friends. Even if you weren't with her, that's just how she made you feel. She made you feel special and loved, and she made you laugh, and it was always smiles. And to know her for as long as I have and to be pretty much just best friends with her, like an older sister, it's just, and man, I don't even have the words for it right now. Sorry, I'm stumbling a little bit, but it's horrible that she had to go through that. And to be honest, she didn't really let us know how gnarly it was. And it really sucks, man. But she was just one of the greatest people I've ever met. And I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and tell you she was perfect. The old girl she was a pain in the ass sometimes, but I'll tell you what, man, we're gonna miss the shit out of her, and she was just so awesome, such a great human. And I don't even know if any of this makes sense. It's beating me up right now, but it's miserable. She was a great human. We love her and miss her dearly, man. It was a horrible A1 because of the news that I got that morning. Going into, the second qualifying, knowing that we lost her, I just, as hard as it was to put it in the back of my mind, I couldn't. But I did in a way. Going into Heat 1, I was kind of flustered and was like kind of, asking God, like, what the heck, dude? Like, how is this fair? And I remember kind of looking up over the stadium and do the two cards up, like, and I'm looking out like, dude, what the? And I remember just kind of botching the start and not having a very good first couple laps. My whole shot device fort guard had broken off and kind of screwed up my first couple laps. And then I just like heard this voice play in my head, like, what are you doing? Quit worrying about this shit and get to work. And that's literally what I felt. I was just like, dude, get going. Quit thinking about this shit. And I just locked in. And I remember going from pretty much dead last in the heat race. And I came back to 10th place. And when I crossed the finish line, I saw I was in 10th place. I was just like, all right, dude, like, we can do it. Let's lock in for the LCQ. And I remember sitting on the gate for the LCQ. And like how the mechanics kind of walk up and slap their guy on the hip and they're like, "Let's go, buddy, like get into it." I felt that little, kind of hip hit and was like, good luck. And I turned around to like give my mechanic a fist bump and there was nobody there. And I'm like, you kidding me, dude? Like, what just happened? And then so I'm like, anyway, shake it off, lock in, and ended up getting a really good start and just running in behind Moseman. And I remember hitting the finish line and I just like pointed up at the sky and I'm like, Jamie Lynn, dude, like that was you right there. You got me through this shit. And to anybody listening, I don't care how crazy this sounds. I swear she like Jamie Lynn was sitting on that gate with me and was like, "We got this, dude. Like it's your turn. Let's get this done." And that's when I hit the finish line and I look up at the sky. I just saw that smile and I'm like, "We did it." Like first one, we made the main. We lost Jamie. It ain't a coincidence, like she was right here with me. She knew, and this might sound crazy to you listening, but she, that selfless woman, she knew we were going racing, me and Aiden, which were like kind of her little brothers. And she was like, I got to get there and be there with them. And I think that's what she did. She said she's done what her time's done here on earth and it's time for her to go be with the Lord. And that's what she did. And I'm telling Aiden, I'm like, bro, Aiden, watch. She got me at A1. She's gonna get you and me at San Diego. And I'm not saying Jimmy Bradford poked a hole in my valve at San Diego, but she kept me out of that race in San Diego for a reason. And Aiden Shive went out there and had a night. And when Aiden got done with the race that night, I said, Aiden, what are the chances at Anaheim 1, we lose Jamie Bradford, I make the main event, you go to San Diego, you make the main event. And I said, watch, when we get to Anaheim 2, we're both going to be in that freaking show. And I don't know if you saw what happened, but we were both in the main event. And that just, it makes me mind boggled. I don't have no words to say. I can't get any of the words out that I want to get out, but it is a blessing and the Lord works in mysterious ways. But man, it's been a brutal 3 weeks for all of us. We lost an amazing human, but I think, like I said, the Lord works in mysterious ways, and I think it's going to bring me and all my boys together, and we're going to, heal over time with this. It's not easy for any of us, but, my thoughts and prayers go out to the Bradford family, and it's a horrible thing that happened, but the only thing we can do is love Jamie and have her in our thoughts and prayers and memories and cherish all the times we had together and be grateful for it and know that she's in a better spot now. But brutal moment, but an amazing human that we lost. I'll quit talking in circles. She was an amazing human and nobody deserved what she went through. She was a trooper, dude.
Dude, you mentioned several things that I noticed. I mean, within 5 minutes of talking to her, the first time I ever reached out to her when I was going to tell her story, like, I felt like I knew her for years. I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
the way she connected with people and then meeting her in Pittsburgh, like you said, that smile just everywhere. It didn't matter. The clouds were gray that day, but it didn't really matter. And then your four
No.
guard, man, you were having so much trouble with that thing in A1. That thing was flying off, give you all kind of fits. But what an amazing person. It was definitely hard for us. I know I was kind of sitting on my own off to the side of the press box, but definitely shed a few tears that day at A1, but she's definitely in a better place now. It was awesome to get to know her the little bit that I did. But we're going into Houston, going into round number 4. You've mentioned it. Very stoked with your year so far. For the rest of the year, what's your outlook? You said you're going back to your roots, RM Army, having fun, you're making main events, doing it with your dad, B2 Metal Buildings there on the side of your bike, and I know that's a company that you and your dad have been helping get going. And what are your goals for the rest of this year, and how many races will we see you at? I'm guessing the entire West Coast series, but what does Crockett Myers 2026 from here look like?
So honestly, I just plan on finishing out the remainder of the Supercross season as hard as I can and just, keep doing what I'm doing, keep my head screwed on tight and no matter how successful my nights or weekends go, when the night's done, couple hugs, couple high fives, and hop in our cars. We go back, get dinner, go to bed, and we'll celebrate till 9 or 10 o'clock. Go to bed and stay on the program. But as far as the remainder of what is it outdoors, or am I going to go to trying to race some backyard races, or do I get picked up by you know, a bigger team? I don't know. I'm happy with how my program's going right now. And to be honest, the only thing that I'm focused on right now is doing the best that I can do with the equipment that I have right now. I haven't, I obviously don't have any phone calls from anybody. I'm not speaking to nobody. I'm sticking true to the McGinley Clinic and, B2 Metal Buildings, my dad's company, and we're going to keep grinding and doing what we can do best, and that's having fun and trying to make people smile and racing dirt bikes, dude. It's what I love. It's all I've ever known, and I'm going to keep doing it to the fullest and keep giving it my best. It's about all I have to say on that.
You guys got a good group over there at the McGinley Clinic. I finally met John Ayers at Anaheim 1. He was talking to me. He's like, thanks for the coverage, man. Of course, I've talked to a lot of the other guys, Tristan Lane, Scott Meshy, Zach Williams before. Got a good group over there. Thanks for the time, man. It was fun to talk to you. I know you're always going to be shooting from the hip, laying everything out on the table, but for people who want to follow your journey, where can they get a hold of you, and what sponsors would you like to thank for helping you out this season and helping you get to all these 250 West races?
Dude, first and foremost, I'd like to give a shout out to the Lord for doing all he's done for me and sticking by my side and really open up my heart and mind to really what he does for me. I think for me, my faith has been taking me a long ways, and obviously, the F word and the Lord's name might come out at the same time. And I talked to a good buddy of mine, Jordan Post, today about that, and I believe that he forgives me when that happens. But dude, I'd like to give a shout out to the whole McGinley Clinic Privateer Support Program for taking a step and believing in me and giving me a platform to produce these results out of. A shout out to my dad, my mom, my older brother Lincoln, B2 Metal Buildings, Branded Fence Exchange, Bell Helmets, Danny Miney or Monet. Apologize for not knowing how to say your last name. I kind of just say what I want, so I'm going to call you Miney. Rob Burkhart, Dave Dye, Dave Janolfi, Jamie Ellis at Twisted Development, Mohead, 100% goggles, 110 racing gear, EVS, Dunlop tires, Tamer whole shot, gut seat covers, and dude, just everybody in my corner. I apologize that I don't have you all written down in front of me right now, but everybody that is a part of my program and is, whether it's donating me some money so I can get to these rounds and afford flights and hotels and travel and rental cars and food on my plate and a bed to sleep in at night, I'm forever grateful. Moto Sandbox, Jason and Stacy Baker, Ben Riddle, RG3 Suspension, everybody that's behind me. I'm incredibly grateful for everybody that stands behind me and makes this possible for me and trusted in me, even if it's just one more year. This would be, an absolute amazing year for me to remember, and just grateful to be riding my motorcycle and being around those who I love and being supported by friends and family, and all in all, just being able to, live an amazing life so far. Will forever be grateful for this, dude. It's been amazing, and I'm speechless at the moment. I'm just on a high still from, the weekends that I've had so far, the time that I've got to spend and be with my friends. I'm grateful for the time that I was able to spend with Jamie Bradford before she passed, and being able to make a main event. So I had enough money to book a flight down there to be at her funeral and just be there for those people that needed me when they didn't even know that I needed them at that point in time. It's everybody that's been a part of my program. Love everybody that I'm associated with. And I appreciate you for having me on this podcast. And I'm glad we had the time to speak tonight, even though, it's late as shit at night. And dude, I'm grateful for everybody. So thank all of you who make this possible for me. And thank you, Trey, for having me on tonight.
No problem, man. Thank you for joining me. Keep the ball rolling, keep the momentum going. Enjoy your home race this weekend. Go follow him, everyone, at Crockett Myers on Instagram. Go
Oh yeah,
follow
I
his
forgot
journey.
that. I forgot that plug. You can follow me on Instagram at Crockett Myers. I believe that's my Facebook as well. If you want to follow me and see some of the stupid stuff that I do on a day to day, you can add me on Snapchat. It's Crockett underscore 411. Also, I want to give a shout out to AJ Meadows. He's my graphics guy back home. He's been, supplying me with graphics so my bike looks spiffy and spanny during the week. But that's about it. Thank you, everybody, and go follow me on social medias to keep up with the shenanigans that we do.
Thanks once again, man. This has been Crockett Myers on the Unsung Heroes of Anaheim 2. 13th place finish, a career best. Thank you once again, and best of luck this weekend in H-Town.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Moving on to 15th and 16th, another pair of teammates. You have the Heartbeat Hot Sauce Nano Extreme, powered by Ty Lube, Yamaha guys. Dominic Thury, first main event of the year for the German rider. He put on an absolute show during the LCQ. He was a little loose during part of it, got up to try to battle Crockett for the lead, almost threw things away, went off the side of the track, but he kept it together enough to secure his first main event start and his best finish, his first top 15 in the 250 ranks since Denver 2022 when he was still competing for the Club MX Yamaha team. So a great step forward for Thury after missing the first couple rounds. Of course, this is his second stint with Team Solitaire. Last year he was on his own. 2024, he raced with the PRMX Kawasaki team. Now, Thury is back with Solitaire and back in the top 15. And just behind was his teammate, Robbie Wageman. 3 for 3 so far for Mr. Wageman. 16th overall. Not a great result. He went down early in the main event after a top 10 start. He was looking really good early. Unfortunately, went down, but still 16th. Not too bad at the end of the day for Robbie. In 17th, speaking of racers who went down, Avery Long, who was a part of that start crash, couldn't really work his way through the pack like his teammate Carson Mumford or like Dylan Schwartz, but still 17th. That's 5 more points in the total for Avery Long, and he made it out of Anaheim 2 healthy, which is also an important mark. Behind him in 18th, for next level racing on his Honda, Hunter Schlosser, 2 in a row main events for the Texan. Great step forward for Schlosser. In the past couple years, he's been on the 450 and qualified for only one main event, that being last year at Seattle. Now back in the 250 class, it seems like he's starting to find his footing again. Back to back starts, 15th last week, 18th this week for Hunter Schlosser. In 19th place, you start to have your DNF range from 19th to 22nd. It was Lux Turner on the Toyota Redlands Bar X Yamaha. Lux was having a better run. He was in the top 10 for a little bit, running 11th, and unfortunately, a crash mangled the handlebars. They were drooping pretty bad on that machine, and Lux went down hard. Of course, been battling through wrist pain, injured his wrists at the end of November at the AUS-X Open, but he's still been riding. He's frustrated with his season so far, but I know Lux, he's a great rider. He's going to turn things around. He just needs some good luck in the future. He will definitely be headed back in the right direction pretty soon. I'm sure of that. 20th place, back in the main event once again. Like Hunter Schlosser, 2 in a row for Aiden Shive aboard his HBI Racing KTM. Unfortunately, talking about Crockett Myers earlier with the mechanical gremlins, it was Shive's turn with some mechanical issues. An engine expired on his bike, and he was set on the stadium floor watching the main event, sitting on top of his bike, just watching the other competitors circle around. Had to be a heartbreaking feeling for Aiden. But on the positive side, back to back main event starts for the first time in his career has to give him some more confidence heading into a Triple Crown. Maybe he can make his first Triple Crown start this weekend in Houston. Time will tell. Now moving on to the finishers outside of the main event, those who just missed the cut. As I mentioned, Preston Massiangelo, who we interviewed last week, 1 spot shy, heartbreaking. He was running a great LCQ, but then left the door open a little too much. Jorgensen ran him wide, stole the last transfer spot. I know Massiangelo was a little heartbroken, but he will definitely have a shot once again to try to get back in the top 22 at Houston. Just behind him, the Rocky Mountain ATVMC Privateer Payout Award winner, Anthony Bourdon. Very strange race for the Frenchman. Top 10 last week. You thought he was going to start getting back to his Bar X form when he was a 7th to 10th place guy usually, but that's not the case. A D and Q for the number 70. Very surprising to say. At least he got the $1,000 privateer payout bonus. But until his 450 teammate Mitchell Harrison qualified in the 450 class LCQ, privateer payout award winners were 0 for 5 to start the season, now 1 for 6. Still not very good odds. At least Mitchell Harrison helping things out a little bit there. But a tough weekend for the Frenchman. Tough weekends also for some other racers in the class. Ty Freehill, of course, made the main event on his Honda in San Diego. Was looking good, battling with Hunter Schlosser for a transfer spot, but went down pretty hard on his wrist, ended up breaking his wrist. Ty said on social media that he was having a lot of fun out there. He said he proved to himself that he belonged, and he felt like he was riding some of the best that he ever has, and he vows to come back stronger and race for another main event spot once his recovery is through. Best wishes to Ty as he recovers, and also best wishes to Brandon Ray, who we interviewed after Anaheim won. B Ray took a tough fall in his heat race. He was also in position to transfer, but unfortunately went over the bars in the same section that claimed Levi Kitchen a couple laps later when Levi did his front flip. He missed the FMX show apparently and decided to do a front flip in the middle of the race, which was pretty impressive in my opinion. But for B Ray, he said he is in concussion protocol and he messed up his shoulder a little bit that has already been aggravating him. He will take Houston off to recover and to fully heal from his crash. And also, we should be getting a baby Ray on the way pretty soon. Best wishes to Brandon as he recovers. And hopefully, we can see him back in the main event and back on the gate soon enough. Now shifting to SMX Next. It was a very talented group of amateur and up-and-coming racers this weekend. A lot of factory guys, a star Yamaha podium sweep. There were two Team Green guys there, some Orange Brigade fellas there, a lot of factory representation, but still quite a few underdog racers as well. The top finishing non-factory racer was in sixth position from Club MX Yamaha, Jessen Turner. Of course, Jessen got a couple podiums last year, one in his first next start at Daytona. He got another one at Redbud a little later in the year. Jessen was off the bike for a while due to an injury toward the end of the summer. Great to see him back. Ripped a good start, made a couple bobbles, but then settled in, got back on the right track, and finished sixth. Not a bad night. An up and down night for Club in futures, or in SMX Next, I should say. Ryder Malinowski qualified second overall. Of course, Ryder won the St. Louis World All-Stars main event and just received a contract through the end of 2027 that seemingly will take Ryder into the pro ranks with the Club MX team next year. He was looking really fast throughout the day, did have a little bit of contact with one of the Cadens in qualifying, which was pretty funny to see because we got to see a middle finger and a clean out in the first SMX Next qualifying session. But Ryder was performing very well. Unfortunately, he goes down very, very hard in that wreck on the opening lap, bounced off of one jump into another. Thankfully, somehow, Ryder's only injuries are a dislocated hip and he has a bruised forehead. Best wishes to Ryder as he recovered. Man, that crash looked gnarly. It looked very scary. Of course, I was there at Anaheim 1 to witness the Justin Barcia accident and to witness the long wait in between. And I know I had some friends there. They were saying it was a very scary scene with both Malinowski and Husqvarna factory amateur Max Shane down as well. Hopefully, those two will be able to fully recover, get back on the track very soon. Best wishes to both of those guys. Looking down through the list, Cole Timbo inside the top 10. The Timbo train was gaining steam outdoors last year, but he does not have as much supercross racing experience, so he will be doing SMX Next indoors before going full-time pro officially outdoors. It was a 10th place run for Timbo. Then a little bit further down the list, you have 13th place Seth Dennis, who is competing for the revived Future MX team. Ashton Aldman, Arena Cross regular in 14th. And you look down some of the further names on the list. Hunter Racing Kawasaki put two guys in the main event with Trinity Batchelor and Chase Lawton. But SMX Next will be back this weekend in NRG Stadium, Houston, Texas. It will be interesting to see what number of these guys are able to build on some of their results and get better from Anaheim, and to see if some have what it takes to try and crack the podium. Moving on now to the 450 class, and it was another great performance for Joey Savacci on the quad lock Honda. After placing fifth at San Diego, it was a sixth place run, and he was ahead of a lot of big names: Prado, Roxon, Cooper, Hampshire, Stewart, all of those people I just mentioned behind Joey Savacci. He's building momentum up to eighth in the point standings. He's only 4 points outside of the top five. Great weekend from Joey once again, stacking momentum, carrying some of that positive energy from his performances in the World Supercross Championship. Awesome to see Joey running so well. So many competitive guys up front. And Joey has been fifth and sixth the last two rounds and could have been much higher at Anaheim as well. Great to see his performance really fighting with some of those top level factory guys. And of course, Joey has been rock solid in Supercross throughout his entire career. Once again, you have to move back a little bit further to find the next non factory racer. That would be Christian Craig in 13th. Another quiet ride from Craig. Another one that doesn't really jump off the page, but it's another main event. More laps under his belt as he continues to figure out working with this quadlock team, continue adapting to the Honda. 13th for Christian Craig. Nothing crazy, but it's another start. A couple spots behind him, Justin Hill still dealing with that rib injury, that cartilage issue, riding through the pain. 14, 14, 15. Once again, nothing crazy that's going to jump off the page, but he's stacking points and he's stacking starts in a very competitive field. So Justin Hill, 15th at the end of the day, and Anaheim 2, and a few spots behind them, 18th position, Shane McElrath. Man, it's been a tough start to the year for Shane. He was getting a lot of top tens at the end of last year, got his first podium at Foxborough, first podium in the 450 class. But Shane, tough weekend. He was not able to transfer through his heat race for the first time this year. Sent to the LCQ, he did take care of business and dominate the LCQ once he got into the lead. But still, 18th place, I know that's not what Shane's looking for. Hopefully, he is able to start building some more momentum and get things rolling in the right direction. 19th place, oh boy, on the ISRT Kawasaki, sporting some sponsorship from Factory Chassis Parts this weekend. He's back. Vince Freezy. I said he was back at Anaheim 1. I meant that he was back racing. Vince Freezy shenanigans are back because in the last corner for 19th place, Freezy obliterated Mitchell Harrison and sent him into one of the taller tough blocks for 19th place. And the ironic part about this is that Freezy, for 19th place, you would ordinarily get 3 points. Well, the AMA saw his aggressive riding, and of course, he has a reputation. The AMA decided to dock Vince 5 points for his overly aggressive riding, sending Mitchell Harrison for basically no reason. 19th to 20th, joking around with some people that I know last night. I heard, what was that for? Was that for $1? Was that for $5? How much was that really for? But Freezy goes from earning 3 points to instead losing 2 points from Anaheim to not sure if we've ever seen a rider earn negative points from a round before, but Vince Freeze making more history. And apparently there was some kind of little scuffle, little altercation at the ISRT pits. Mitchell Harrison was not happy. I don't blame him one bit. 20th place for Money Mitch. He's 3 for 3 so far, putting that Kawasaki in the main events as always. But if I was Mitchell, I would be very angry as well for being cleaned out for 20th place. But on the bright side, he was back in the main event once again. And then in 21st place, speaking of Vince Freezy, his old team, his longtime organization, Moto Concepts Racing, returning to Supercross. There was a cancellation for the AMA Arena Cross Series due to all the ice and snow. They were supposed to race in Nashville, I believe, but the cancellation prompted their points leader, Ryan Brees, to return to Supercross, and he was back, in the main event aboard that number 200. Got out front early in the LCQ, finished second in that race. 21st, not an impressive finish, particularly for Brees, but he was back in the show. He's been dedicated to Arena Cross lately. He did run some World Supercross and have some solid runs over there, but he's been focused on the Arena Cross side of things, now making a quick last minute cameo in 450 Supercross, and he puts her in the main event. Not too shabby. Looking at racers outside of the main event, and it was his title rival, Cole Thompson, another one of the Team Solitaire riders. Thompson going to run select Supercross races in between the Arena Cross season. Cole was one spot shy of qualifying this weekend in his first attempt. Max Miller, a couple spots out. Max has had a good season. I know he's only one of three so far, but in the level of competition you have, to be in a main event at San Diego and then to be two spots out at both A1 and A2, I think is a solid start for Max, who's in his rookie 450 Supercross season. Not bad. Once again, Cade Clayson, Freddie Noren, they fall to 0 for 3 so far this year. It was a bad weekend for the KMR guys. Kevin Moran's Grant Harlan struggled, both of them in the main at San Diego. They were 11th and 12th in the LCQ this weekend, not even really in the hunt for transfer spots. A bad start for Moran's. Not a great weekend for the KMR boys, but head up, there's another round about to happen. Speaking of KTMs, it was a much improved result from the Swede Anton Nordstrom, one of the funniest characters in the paddock. Anton racing for the Moto Whips racing crew this year. He skipped San Diego to recover from some bumps and bruises at Anaheim, and he was a lot better this weekend. Of course, Anton started running Supercross just a couple years ago. Last year, he made a main event in the 250 class at Arlington and was really starting to develop and find his speed before he got injured. Now Anton is back for the full season. He's got his visa. He's over here ready to keep charging toward the front. He's getting better. I know 10th in the LCQ doesn't look all that good on paper, but once again, it's progress, steps forward after missing the races. So awesome to see Anton start to build. Quite the funny guy. Moto Whips, they got some characters over there in those pits. Speaking of the Moto Whips team, unfortunately, Dayton Briggs will be out of action for a little bit. Broke a bone in his hand. He mentioned that in his interview with Jess Miskell that I saw this weekend from the pits. Unfortunate because Briggs brings a lot of personality as well. A very entertaining guy and someone who just turned pro in Supercross last year, of course. He had that great performance in Foxborough in the mud, led some laps in his heat race and the main event, qualified up front. Hopefully, we can see Briggs back on the track soon. Speaking of some crashes and some injuries, Scott Meshy went down pretty hard in that LCQ. He was trying to navigate, get closer to the transfer spots, and when Max Miller lost the front end pretty early, Meshy went down pretty hard. Sad way to end the race at Anaheim 2 for Meshy. Hopefully he's okay. No injury announcement as of right now. We will see if the number 411 is ready to go and able to compete at Anaheim 2. And one last bit of injury news. This is from San Diego to pass on, but I was not aware of it until this weekend. Stefan Rubini, who came over from France racing for the Gizmo Racing Yamaha team, will be out of action for a while, possibly the rest of the season. He tore his Achilles in practice at San Diego. That is a huge injury. Obviously, Eli Tomac had the Achilles injury in 2023. Not what you want to see for any racer. So, best wishes to Rubini, to Dayton Briggs, to Scott Meshy, all of these racers who are on the mend trying to recover from their injuries. It's an unfortunate part of the sport, but one that happens all the time. Hopefully, we can stay pretty injury free, pretty healthy in Houston. This has been episode number 3 of the Unsung Heroes for the 2026 season, covering Anaheim 2. Thank you for listening. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, be sure to spread the word about our series. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, traystire.wordpress.com if you want to read the standard written version of the article. Tell your friends to get behind some of these underdogs, these privateer racers. They love the support. They love getting to hear their names and to meet new fans, to have more people supporting them. So get out there, get to the track, get on the TV, and support all of those guys scratching and clawing for these main event spots. Hopefully, we'll have some more big storylines and great news for you after Houston. A mixed bag, some great stuff, also some sad news, some injuries. Hopefully, we get to see full recoveries from all that went down at Anaheim, too. But until next week, I am Trey Steyer. Thank you for listening to the Unsung Heroes, and we will see you after H Town.